Hello and welcome to Wild Soul Gatherings. I'm Dr. Sandra Marie and I'll be your host for Happy Hour for the Spiritually Curious. I'm very grateful for all you wild souls out there who've decided to join us today. I want to send a special thanks to each of you for taking time out of your day to join us and our guests as we talk about the many aspects of spirituality. To receive updates on our latest episodes, please subscribe and follow Happy Hour for the Spiritually Curious. A positive rating and comment is always appreciated. In the tradition of Happy Hour, cheers to some new insights, peace, revitalization, perhaps an aha moment that will positively influence your life. Welcome to Wild Soul Gatherings. I'm Dr. Sandra Marie, and I'll be your host today for this episode of Happy Hour for the Spiritually Curious. Today on our show, we're going to have Mary and Anthony. They're the owners of the Positive Pineapple located in Cleveland, Ohio. Positive Pineapple also has a global following, especially in Australia. This show is broken down into 3 separate episodes, including a bonus meditation. Let's get started with part 1 of this 3-part series. Welcome to the show, Mary and Anthony.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sandra. We're happy to be here.
Yes, we are.
I wanted to talk about a little, I think it was over 2 years ago. You were both working mainstream jobs. Anthony, I believe that you've scaled down a bit. And Mary, you walked away from your job basically to go all in with the Positive Pineapple. So can you share with the listeners the circumstances that were going on in your life that sort of pulled you away from that 9-to-5 world and really put you on this current journey of trying to change the world and influence lives in a positive way?
Yeah. Well, it started with us both going through some very severe health issues. And once we got through those issues, which we can talk a little bit deeper into, but once we got through those health issues, we started on this journey for ourselves just to find out different ways to take care of ourselves, more holistic ways. Through that, Tony and I have been together for almost 13 years now, and he always said we should figure out something to do together. We should figure out something to do where we work together. And I had been in the car business 25 years, since I was 15 years old, and my ego kept telling me it's all I knew how to do. I couldn't do anything else. It's funny because Dr. Joe Dispenza came into our lives through podcasts. And there were a few things that he said in one of his podcasts that just really clicked with me about that hamster wheel we're all stuck on, that cycle we're all stuck on every day, getting up and going to our jobs the same way, getting ready for work the same way. And I thought, wow, we are doing that. And I loved my job. I loved the industry. I loved the people. I loved the different things I got to do all the time. But I found myself sitting at my desk one day thinking, is this really what I want to do the rest of my life? And from there, I started doing Joe Dispenza meditations for about a week and a half. And I remember coming into the house and looking at him and saying, I'm ready to quit my job. And it was the first time in my whole life. I mean, I had no anxiety about it at all.
Oh, wow.
So between his meditations and the breath work we were doing and the cold water, I just was ready. We were lucky enough where we had an opportunity where I was able to do that and walk away from that every 9-to-5 everyday job. I did it, and when we created the Positive Pineapple, Tony said, if we create this, then we have something we have to keep alive, and it's where we are. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's wonderful.
Well, awesome. I'm really excited to get into a little bit more about the Positive Pineapple and the work that you do. Tony, I understand that you are a 4th-level Andean priest. How did that all come about? And can you share a little bit about what that is and the great work you do with it?
Mm-hmm. I'd love to. So, yeah, I'm a Paco Cuna. So that means basically priest people. This is a very ancient tradition of Peruvian shamanism. It predates the Inca Empire. The Paco Cuna were considered the high priests of the Inca Empire. Okay. They were around in prehistoric times even, and up until the Inca writings and the things that we have of their traditions. In 1532, I believe, is when the Spanish came and they invaded Peru. And it was at that time almost all of the other shamanic traditions in Peru were overtaken by the Spaniards. And so a lot of them are of mixed tradition. So some of it's Spanish and Christian and mixed together. These Pacos live so high in the mountains, nobody even went up that high because they get altitude sickness. Nobody knew these people existed until somewhere in the 40s. And then by 1955, one of them was discovered accidentally by my teacher's teacher. And he discovered basically these people, rediscovered the Caro Indians, and so began to train with them. He went off into the mountains to see what their life was like, and right away he was totally enamored and blown away because these people aren't conditioned like we are. Like, they don't have the same ways that they were conditioned to understand reality as we do. So they're taught from the beginning that everything is living energy and everything is alive, just as alive as we are. So that's their mindset. So basically, it's, for me, the way it showed it to me, how Spirit showed it to me, was basically understand that all of it's God. If you knew that everything was God, how would you treat everything around you? So that's kind of like the mindset they have. And so it's not like a fearful idea of a lot of our Western religions and things like that. So it's not a religion or anything. That's what people typically ask, is it a religion? No, it's just a belief system, and the primary belief system is basically all is one living energy. It's the understanding that everything is alive and equally alive. And then the second main point would be something we call Aini, which means divine reciprocity, which is basically put in what you want to get out, give what you get, treat others the way you want to be treated. All the same ideas as most other major philosophical and religious ideas go. So for me, it's it kind of, in my tradition, they consider me a Kamaska because it happened to me naturally. So I didn't find this tradition, it found me. I started to develop the traits of a Paco with my energy medicine coming online on its own through my self-healing. Because like how Mary said, we both had like really severe health issues. And mine was lung disease was the primary one. I had emphysema, like COPD. And it was to a point where I couldn't laugh or cry anymore. And it made me really depressed. Super deep suffering. It took me basically into what I consider the dark night of the soul. So I found myself the most depressed I've ever felt in my life, and it was in there where my first connections, I didn't know at the time what it was, but my first spiritual connections, they just show up sometimes as thoughts in our reality. It's because your thoughts are energy, and it can just show up as thoughts, and it's how Spirit can communicate to us. And I got the idea of, why don't you just try thinking more positively? And I thought at first, like, well, what does that mean? Because, I'm a realist. I see it how it is. I'm a smart guy. I can see how it all is. What does that mean? And then the next thought that injected itself, which was not of my thinking, I had no precognition of these things. It just popped into my head. Maybe you don't see it as it is. Maybe you see it as you are. And I was like, wait, what does that mean, as I am? So it started to go deeper and started to show me. I started to have these feelings and understandings, just like basically, it's like magic almost. The magical healing overcame me. And I started to just understand things in a whole different way. From there, that's what started developing me as the Paco. As Pacos, this is kind of a natural standpoint for us to become basically radically acceptant. We accept reality as it is. Where basically the mindset would be, I accept each moment as if I've chosen it. This puts us in a state of creatorship of our reality. So that's another main thing about a belief system of a Paco, being that kind of, where was I? So...
It reminds me of the
Yeah, go ahead.
It reminds me of Joe Dispenza talks about living in the ever-present current moment.
Yeah, I love Dr. Joe. We're connected to the same frequency. That's what it is. It's basically we're all channels, and we're capable of channeling the living energy, which one can call anything that perceives as divine. It could be God. I never tell. It's another thing. We don't disagree with any religions. However your belief system works is okay. It's totally fine how you see divinity. And it should be different for everyone, because then it's more special and unique to you instead of anything you're guided to do. Yeah, so the tradition found me. It started, my healing ability started coming. I started having this ability to be able to help people release pain, like almost instantly. I started being able to do this. Didn't know, had no training. None of those things ever happened with it. Nothing like that. And then a guy showed up in my reality, a good friend of mine and brother now. His name's Casey. And Casey showed up in my reality, and he is a Paco. He was initiated into the priesthood about a year earlier. Very similar in energy and how we work and everything else. We're very different from most of the other Pacos. With kind of how the way we manipulate energy and can use energy. But it was just the right thing. This guy showed up, and I was already very energetically sensitive, and he helped me open up more. So like that's kind of how Pacos work. When we're around other ones, we get their energy and their downloads. So when I do work with people and everything, I always tell them I'm always grateful and thankful because everyone's my teacher, because I can pick up the frequency and the medicine in everyone. Even just sitting here with you doing this, I'm picking up through you. I can feel cycles of your energy moving, and I'm actually picking up like loving energies coming into my body, which is like a cellular download. Almost like all the trials and tribulations you've been through in your life create a certain frequency in your energy field. And when we're sensitive enough, and we all are, that's the thing I really am out here trying to teach people, is how powerful they really are. Help people empower themselves and tell them, listen, I wasn't always like this, but I'm telling, and I'm not done. Like we are like very limitless. I believe we're very limitless.
It's awesome. I love the way that you spoke it. It's easy to understand and a great message. So, Mary, you talked about being early to the party and that you're growing quickly also. What is that like for you? Because I'm guessing it's a little bit different than what it is for Tony.
Yeah, it is. You know, we're so lucky to have grown through this and gone through this awakening together. You know, it's not something that a lot of people do together. We're very grateful that we have each other through this. His expansion happened so quickly. It was wonderful to watch. And I just kind of was like tagging along in ways where he would start to experience something or get in what we call downloads from source. And he would explain it to me. And it was always just something that was like a deep remembrance inside of me. You know, I just would say, God, that makes total sense. You know, it wasn't like I was ever questioning anything. You know, these are things that I had experienced yet, you know. So through the breath work and training our nervous system, I started experiencing more and more through, you know, connecting to the energy. And it's been a wild ride. It's been a wild ride. I don't even know how to explain it. It's the most fulfilling thing that I've ever experienced, helping people connect to their energy. Because at first, you know, it was just, we were out here, we created the Positive Pineapple to teach people breath work and cold water and mindset. It evolved over time, over a short period of time, into something deeper, which was connecting people to their energy fields. Watching through that came healing and immense healing. Deep healing for people healing their childhood traumas and PTSD and anxiety and depression and insomnia. And I mean, the list just keeps going on and on. We started realizing early on there was a pattern and that everybody is traumatized. You know, we just naturally, it just happened that way. It just kind of evolved into us helping other people heal themselves. And it is the best feeling in the world.
Yeah.
You know, like it never gets old.
Yeah, you guys, it sounds like everything's happening really quick. And I did want to expound on one thing. I know when we had spoken and you just mentioned that everyone's traumatized. Sometimes I feel like people think that doesn't include me. They think
Correct.
of some big event that was, you know, horrific kind of
Correct.
thing. And when we were speaking, you gave some examples of how everyone's experienced trauma, even as a child. If you were in a room and your parent walked out and you were afraid because you were in this room alone, that's an imprint of trauma. So that a lot of the trauma in people's lives is very simple and probably I'll say that they forgot it, but if you start speaking about what all these different things were, they would be flooded with memories. So I did want to share that just so that folks know that this includes me, like I'm part of this also. It doesn't have to be some, you know, big newsworthy event. It's everyday life type of events.
Right.
So I know that you felt call to build a community online, and it's called the Light Club, and that when you titled it, it was off of a famous movie. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I love that movie. So yeah, it's based off a movie, Fight Club, which has Brad Pitt and Edward Norton in it. And basically the movie is pretty much like a psychological thriller. What it comes down to is at the end, basically the guy has like split personality disorder is kind of what's going on, but he was able to create a character in his mind that was far more powerful than his original beliefs of himself. So basically what he did is he created himself a higher mind, is really what he did in the movie. And so by watching that, what it did is it kind of opened up my mind a little bit, like, I started to bring the realization that, we're playing characters. We're playing these characters. It's based off our belief system and who we think we are. Who do you think you are, kind of thing. And that's what creates the idea of your being. And what I did is start to like that movie, not when I first watched it, but it was some time after, I started understanding more what it meant. And it started to kind of flower. That's kind of how I experienced the expansion of my consciousness, is it kind of just comes in on its own. I'll have these feelings, ideas, I don't know what to call them, epiphanies, I don't know. And then it just turns into like an understanding, a new understanding. I can't tell you how it got there. I didn't think about it before it got there. It just becomes an awareness. So that kind of all like played together. It played together, and then it showed me that anyone's capable of being anything they want to be. That's kind of what it means to me in that aspect. So I said, well, instead of fighting, because in a way, that's what they were doing in the movie. They were getting people together. They were bringing a community together. And even though they were fighting, they were sharing energy. And that's what it was really about. So I was like, well, in that reality, if he can have Fight Club, in my reality, I shall create Light Club. And then so I just saw that. And so it's just, so in the movie, one of the lines is, the first rule of Fight Club is you don't talk about Fight Club. And in the movie, that's kind of a joke, because when you tell someone that means they're probably going to tell someone about it.
Right.
Okay? So he told them that way. So in Light Club, it is, the first rule of Light Club is tell everybody you can about it. Tell everybody. If you had a good experience here, tell everyone. That's the first rule of Light Club. So that's kind of why we named it that. It was just kind of fun. Like, it's just even like the reason why we named it the Positive Pineapple. It had to do with that first set of awarenesses I came into, where the Spirit told me to think more positively. So positive popped open my pineapple. And by positively, what really happened is I became acceptant of my reality. I saw my abusive childhood, my entire past, to become something that was given to me instead of something that happened to me. I started to see it as a gift. And that's all I did, was change the way I'm looking at it. And that's kind of the way I tried to teach people to change their mindset, because even if it doesn't make sense to you, because there will be resistance. If you were to say to yourself, for most people, if you say to yourself, I accept each moment as if I've chosen it. When one says that to themselves, it exposes anywhere that there's resistance within the energy field. You'll feel it. You'll disagree. There'll be a disagreement. But wherever that disagreement is where we're choosing disempowerment to externalize our power. And it's a misuse of energy. So even from a standpoint of, even if you can't feel energetically, from a standpoint of logic, it makes no sense to think any other way, because any other thoughts will disempower you and separate you from your true being. It's fairly simple what we need to do to change as human beings. It's just hard to shake the program. That's the biggest issue. So it's just like I'm trying to do the same things as all the other people out here that are trying to help people are doing. Give them good, tangible ways to have an experience. Because it doesn't matter what you tell someone, they have to have an experience. So Dr. Joey takes you into deep meditations. He does some breathing too. We like to use breath work because it's so powerful in our change and how we've seen now. We've had this beautiful thing to be able to see hundreds and hundreds of different people across the globe work with us and make these massive changes. And the first thing we teach them to do is connect to their breath. And right from there, it sets off a chain of events. Physical health starts to increase, mental, emotional health starts to increase, and then what comes up is after you work it for a while, you're connecting to your nervous system in a new way. You begin to connect to the nervous system that's beyond your skin, the quantum field of living energy in which we are all made. And as we do that, each one of us that works at that, we're growing, all of us. It's all growing. So it's a beautiful collective work. Even just us here, I can feel that through my connection to energy. Us just being here doing this podcast, opening up to create information for people and open the mind, we're already doing very beautiful work. It's beautiful work that spreads out into consciousness in all directions.
We can get into the breath work more because I know we talk about like sort of what the modality is with it. And you do a morning breath on Facebook 3 times a week, I believe, where you're doing that. And you did a Facebook Live for the last supermoon called the Buck Moon event. So Mary, you had sent me an email and said, hey, by the way, we're doing this, I think at 7 o'clock tonight. And I just happened to open the email right before it happened. Coincidence, right? Not. So I jumped in on that. And I was one of those people you talked about. Some folks were still left out there in that astral field. So if you can talk a little bit about the Facebook work, the breath work, and what you do. One of the things I really sort of want to enhance with the listeners is, I'm in a different state than you. We're doing these. It's all distance, but the energy is very palpable. It's very real. It was very effective. Yeah, it was. I will have to say my own personal experience was very powerful. So I want to thank you for that, and I very much enjoyed it. But can you talk a little bit about what breath work is, how that works, and how you're using Facebook and other social medias to really connect and make a difference?
Do you want to answer some?
Yeah. Well, we started off with Facebook, which, we've been blessed with a lot of connections through Facebook and YouTube. When we do our live streams, we do them usually Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and they stream live through Facebook and YouTube at 6:45 a.m. Eastern Time. Now, people can watch and tune in live, and they can comment through the comment section, and we get into different Mondays and Wednesdays is a lot of just talking, mindset, spiritual coaching, ascension coaching, basically, for people.
Whatever comes up.
Yeah, basically whatever comes up.
We're very intuitive. We don't try to plot or plan anything for these shows, not even the group sessions we do. We don't really plan anything. We may have an idea of like a theme, like with the moon. I have no idea what's going to happen. I allow myself to connect directly to spirit and pull in the energy, and the medicine shows up, because whoever shows up, that's who it's for. Right. I shouldn't have a plan, I don't think. It doesn't seem that works right.
And then Fridays, we offer free healings. So people can come on and just comment and say that they're interested in healing. And we will provide healing. We also will provide like a group healing. For people, like you were saying, the energy doesn't know time or distance. So people can tune into these live streams. They're all recorded on our YouTube page. And they can watch these live streams of Morning Breath. And if somebody has a headache and they happen to watch one of the live streams where someone had a headache and received a healing from it, they can tune into that energy and actually receive that healing.
We get those kind of messages. People will watch the videos like, hey, you weren't even talking to me and I received a healing. It's because you're in the flow of energy.
Yeah. So it's
really amazing.
It is amazing. We try, we have those live streams, and then we will try to get on every once in a while. We were doing a lot more live streams in the evenings when we had a little bit more time. Now we've just been so busy. We haven't done a lot of them, and we jumped on for the full moon and thought this is probably a really good time to do one. We do want to continue doing them for like new moon ceremonies and full moon ceremonies coming up in the future.
But Morning Breath is great. We have people that come in from Australia.
Yeah.
We have this whole group of people from Australia. Over there it's nighttime, so they kind of stay up late.
I was just going to say, was it?
Yeah.
That was going to be my question. Is it morning for them or morning for you?
Morning for me. It's night breath for them. It's like, and when I'm on at 6:45, I think they're saying it's about 11:45 p.m. there. So they'll come on, and that's really fun. Oh, and then breath work. The reason why we teach breath work. So it was very instrumental first. It was kind of what Spirit showed me first to heal myself. And it was the most powerful thing I've ever encountered in my life to connect to my mind, my body, and my spirit. It's the primary thing in which really helped me to get here. I've done lots of other things, lots of other modalities and things also. I have like a pretty extensive wellness kind of schedule, including ice baths and things like that.
So talk about the ice baths.
Oh, I'd love to. You want to talk about a polar bear? You like them? We love them.
Yeah.
I love them. Well, going back to the breath work, we started doing the breath work. He started doing that breath work. Right off the bat, it was very challenging for him because he had lung disease. So he knew just to kind of take it slow and push himself as much as he could. and he started to feel things happening. I jumped on board right away, and
Started
in
changing.
support of him, we'd sit there and do it at night together. And then I started realizing it was helping me with my anxiety. It was helping me get rid of my anxiety, which was a huge thing for me. So then we had been watching and studying Wim Hof, the Wim Hof method. And we knew that in that method, he includes cold immersion. Mm-hmm. We weren't ready to jump full force into that right away, but it wasn't long. It was like a couple months, 2 months or something after we started breath work that we decided to start taking cold showers.
Yeah, I was still pretty sick at the time.
Yeah.
So I still had like lung disease. It was starting to get better by then, and I was still on like 4 medications for high blood pressure at that time. So I was pretty afraid to get in the cold. I had these ideas that the cold water was going to kill me, and that's what my ego was telling me, trying to stop me. I just didn't listen.
Well, and it's challenging because, we tell people about cold water and how powerful of a tool it is. And everyone's all, has the same reaction. Ooh, I can't do cold. I hate cold,
Hey, take a cold shower. Ooh.
We were the same way. We were scared, It's uncomfortable. And who wants to stand in a cold shower for a couple minutes? And that is all you need is 2 to 3 minutes to receive the full benefits. We thought it would be fun. And we bought a stopwatch to hang in the shower so we could figure out how long we were staying in for. And so then it kind of turned into like friendly competition, which was fun,
That's great. That is great.
Also, it helped us, So then we found other ways to help us in the water. I used songs. He used songs sometimes. You just play music or play a song and know that the song was like 3 minutes and 30 seconds. And so you just try to stay in for that whole song.
Yeah.
Things started really changing then. I mean, the cold water is another tool where it really hits you on all levels, mind, body, and soul. It can purge you heavy emotion right out of you. It can turn people into complete laughter fits or pull out heavy emotions, make you cry. I mean, there's so many benefits of the cold water, but when we decided to invest into a deep freezer and convert it into an ice bath, that was a whole nother level.
That was a whole new level of training. Yeah,
yeah, it was.
Yeah.
It's definitely changed our lives.
So I'd say the biggest tangible benefit for most people when they first start cold immersion is doing 3 minutes in full cold. So that would mean right now this time of year, shower might be a little too warm, might be above 60 degrees Fahrenheit. So as long as you're below 60 degrees, and science points specifically to 57 degrees or below, and you spend 3 to 5 minutes in there, you will increase your dopamine by 250%. Which is the equivalent to cocaine minus the stimulant. Very, very powerful at increasing dopamine.
And it lasts for how long?
7 to 12 hours after your plunge. And that's all it takes. So it takes 3 minutes. You're willfully being uncomfortable for 3 minutes. That's the first thing. So you're training the mind to accept being uncomfortable. This really teaches us a good way to handle stress, right? So I'm accepting that I'm going to be uncomfortable for 3 minutes, and I can do it. So when you first start doing it, like Mary says, you try to find ways to distract yourself, a song. So now you're dancing, you're with the song, you're not with the water, you're with the song, right. And that's how it starts. And as you move along, you start craving it because of how you feel afterwards and how everything feels great in you afterwards. And then it comes to a point where it started communicating kind of with me. I started realizing, I can go into the feeling of the water. Then I just started having all the sensations of my body. Like I would feel the sensations of my body and be able to just control how it feels, basically. But I just realized that's when I realized right then it was showing me that I was starting to train my nervous system in some sort of way, because I became very aware of my nervous system. I could tell, oh my gosh, there's these things that are changing in the way things are being controlled, the way I'm thinking, the way I'm perceiving reality. And that all tied into my earlier awakening, my understanding that my perception informs my reality. However I decide to look at it is how it is. So as soon as I started paying attention to that, the dopamine started changing. Body was still healing at a very fast rate, because getting in the cold water, plus it works your vascular system. It was really powerful for helping me heal my high blood blood pressure is using the cold water because of how it works with the vascular system. You have 80,000 miles of blood vessels in your body. You could wrap that around Earth almost 4 times. How is that all controlled? It's controlled with something called smooth muscle, which is basically nearly billions of tiny little muscle fibers that open and close your blood vessels, constrict and dilate. Also, you have endothelial cells. Well, these things never really get used because we're running into our warm car or warm house. We're not actually spending time outside getting adapted to cold, and especially going into cold water, because cold water, that's why we use it. It works a lot better than cold air because it transfers heat 25 times faster than air, and it's about 830 times as dense. So it takes away your heat really quickly, the water does, way faster. If you just stood outside, which I do, I go outside and shovel the snow in just my swim trunks. I'm sure the neighbors love it. I get honked at sometimes and stuff, so that's fun. You know, being out there in the cold, you have to be out there way longer to get the same effects because of just how deep the water goes into the tissue of the body. It really shoves all the blood to the middle of your body. It shuts off all of the exterior blood vessels. It puts the body in survival mode, but this is a good form of survival mode because this is actual survival, not mentally generated survival from our incessant overthinking that creates tension and starts to open our sympathetic nervous system. This is working. You're actually teaching about how to face actual stress. And then when you do that, after you do that a whole bunch of times, you start to notice the things in your life that were stressful all of a sudden aren't so stressful. And now you want that cold water even more. And then you go in there and not only can you feel and connect to the water, you're grateful and you're thanking her. You start to become, like in my tradition, we see the water as a Mama Unu, is what we call her, Mother Water. She's a very powerful, divine feminine nature being in our tradition. And water has memory, and it's a very powerful thing, and it can be cleansing and very helpful to you, especially if you're willfully connecting to it. Mm-hmm. That's why even like in, biblical terms, it's ask and you shall receive. You got to ask. There's stuff all around us within our energy field that's open and available to us. We're just kind of blind to it, and we don't know how to ask. So if we start to ask, and that's basically how we got here.
Our listeners out there, can you share with them ways that they can get a hold of you, get onto your social media, different projects that you have out there? How can the listeners connect with you? I'm still a little bit in like la la land here.
That's totally okay. Me too. The first place that would be the best place to visit would probably be our website. Visit us at thepositivepineapple.org. It's really easy, positivepineapple.org. And you can go on there, and we have a direct link to YouTube there with a beginner's video, because that's always what everybody wants to know. What are you doing? Well, when you work with us, the primary thing I'm going to teach you and all people when they first start is how to breathe. Breathing is A1. That's the first thing we do to take control of our being. That's usually a lot of questions is when we do hook up Anthony and we have a private session. That's a common question. What does a private session look like? And then so my typical answer is, well, I don't know. It depends on what you bring, because I'm an intuitive, so I don't have like a method in which I typically do things. I know that we're going to talk, and I know that we're going to breathe. I know that we're going to connect to energy. I have no idea what medicines are going to come through. So I'm capable of all kinds of things. I do soul retrievals, entity removals, all kinds of different types of shamanic energy medicine. So whatever usually comes forward is what shows up in that situation. But you'll still have people, they want to show up and they have a list of things that they want to do, and usually as they tell me, I let them tell me the list, and I take the list out of their hands and I put it over here, and then we go into the thing. And I help them understand that expectations is not where you want to be. You don't want to have any expectations. That in itself will stop you or slow down energy. Yeah, so visiting us at the website's perfect. Mary built the website, which she did a really nice job, and it's really beautiful. I have no idea how to do that stuff, so she did awesome, and we love it.
So I just want to absolutely thank you guys for being here. Thank all of our listeners for taking time out of their day to join us. And most of all, I want to say to everyone out there, please embrace your wild soul. And thank you guys so much.
Thank you so
Thank
much
you
for this
so much, Sandra.
opportunity.
This has been beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us of part 1 of this 3-part series. Join us for part 2, where Mary and Tony will discuss quantum physics, touch on CERN, anxiety, awakening, and ascension symptoms. I'd like to thank our guests for joining us for this episode of Wild Souls Gatherings Happy Hour for the Spiritually Curious. To find out more about our guests, how to contact them, or detail on this episode, please see our show notes. You can also visit us at our website, wildsoulsgathering.com. We would love to hear from our visitors what you thought of this show, what you would like to see and hear in the future, questions you may have. Go to podinbox.com/happy hour for the spiritually curious. You can leave either a voice or traditional message for us. This is your host, Dr. Sandra Marie, sending each of you peace and love. Until we meet again, embrace your wild soul.